Well, now listen. Here we are. Welcome to the Blood Brothers podcast. We are joined this evening, as ever, by myself, Rob Parker, and Chris McDonald.
Good evening.
Hello.
And we are joined in the guest author seat by the inimitable Stu Turton.
Ooh, inimitable. Hello. Thanks for having me, guys.
Inimitable. Stu, you're the author of, I would say, probably two of my favourite books of all time.
Oh, well, I'm leaving now. This can't get any better. There's
And,
nothing I can do here.
so, if I fanboy a little bit, just stop me, everybody. It's fine.
No,
I'm happy to be
Do
stopped.
not stop him. If he's fanboys, just leave us alone. It's going to be a long night.
I just think you're incredible.
We obviously talk behind the scenes a little bit because there is, believe it or not, there is some planning that goes into this farce that we do once a week. But this week we're really fighting about who can fanboy first or the hardest. I think it's really what this is about.
Mate, usually if it's an interview with me, I will be the first person fanboying over myself. That's usually the way it goes. You guys can get a ride. And
I like that. You've got to back your own horse, haven't you?
that's what
I think so. I think definitely more authors need to take a leaf from this book and just be like, well, I was confident enough to push it out to an agent or an editor in the first place, so damn it, it's good.
Yeah,
I mean,
Get on.
If you don't have some confidence, you're not going to get past that 1-star review, are you? That first one that comes in would just shatter you and send you home forever. So,
you still need to have a lot of confidence to get past that.
remember that?
It'll still get you.
Do you remember that old Alan Partridge thing where he's looking in the mirror and he's like, "You're a tiger," every morning? There's got to be an author version of that. You're Stephen King.
I think to get to a certain point where you've had a book published, I think you've had to have embodied that at some point.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter anywhere on that scale. You have to have embodied that. No, actually, I'm going to go one back further than that and say that once you have completed a manuscript and you're not someone who says, I've got a great idea for a book, you're actually written a book. That's the one I think that's where, like, listen, you've dedicated yourself. You've given the discipline. You've shown that you're made of it. That's when we can do the Alan Partridge look in the mirror stuff, I feel. From that very point.
I'd argue that it's when you get your first set of notes back from the editor that you might have to steel yourself slightly.
Yes, yeah.
Until then,
immediately
everything's still golden.
I was dead lucky about that because I was a journalist for most of my career. So, like, red lines, the red pen thing and the edit, like, I knew that was coming, and it was just like, that was cool because I felt that was the first time I felt on familiar ground. Like, having somebody be like, I'm sorry, Stu, that was shit, was like, oh, thank God I'm home. Where everything up until that, where you're just on your own writing and there's no one to be like, really? I was like, that was me at sea. That was absolutely terrifying, that bit. So to go back to the idea about confidence, though, I slightly disagree with Rob because I think any bit you're doing where you're just like, it's you in your bedroom at night, whether that be masturbating or writing, that's a shameful thing, right? So, like, you're just...
That is far too rude for this podcast, dude.
No, it's not. It's perfect. Thank Christ there's somebody else with my line of thinking.
It's far too rude for me,
This would have been the moment Chris's daughter just walked into the back. Let's masturbate.
What's writing, Daddy?
Is this what you do in your bedroom all night? Yes and yes. But it's that same thing. So, like, I think if you're doing that in secret, I would never have a problem with that. Like, writing a novel at night, that was mine. Nobody really knew about it. I wasn't telling anybody. I was just my wife, obviously. I was just kind of getting on with it. But the moment I had to go out to an agent is the moment where you have to sort of slightly be like, I have enough confidence in this to let someone professional read it. And now I realise how incredibly stupid that was because that first manuscript was so terrible and it was in such a bad state and I couldn't see it. I'm surprised I ever got published because the stuff I don't know or didn't know and now know that I didn't know is incredible. That learning experience has been massive, absolutely massive.
And that's coming from somebody who was a journalist in the first place. So it's not like writing and shaping the article or the artifact was a problem.
No.
But then when you turn that into a novel or a manuscript and you go, this is brilliant, makes perfect sense to me. Mm-hmm. Off it goes.
That's it. And it's like that my first was like 130,000 words, I think. And
Wow.
It didn't explain half of what the book needed to explain, and just explained a lot of things that no one would ever need explaining. It was things like that, because I had filled in, through about the 32 edits of the first book, I had filled in all the details in my brain and never thought about them again. I never assumed that you guys could telepathically work out what I was. Chris is nodding vigorously. I assume you've gone through the same thing.
I'll take it. That's usually what happens. I was going to ask at that point, how did you? They put, when you send it out, obviously you have to send your letter, sort of selling it. How did you sort of try to market yourself or put it out there to agents?
I think the first line was, I said this book is Agatha Christie meets Groundhog Day with a splash of Quantum Leap, I think is how I sold it. And then I said it was basically a bog standard Agatha Christie novel with a bit of sci-fi stuff around the edge, and just went for that. But I had a meeting with an agent who told me to take all the sci-fi stuff out. It was just like, look, you'll never sell this. Like, it's not gonna. The question she asked me was, where do you see this sitting in a bookshelf? Is it crime or is it sci-fi? And I was like, well, it's a crime book. And she's like, well, that's where you've got to place it. Everyone will get confused, take the sci-fi out of it. So you can imagine that was my first meeting with an agent. And someone's like, I liked your book enough to bring you into this meeting, but actually not enough to represent you if you don't do this horrible thing to it. So that was pretty terrifying. But that was the pitch that got me Harry. Sorry, I've just sent you off because actually, I think I've still got the letter somewhere. It'll be in my email. So talk amongst yourselves, and I will find the email, and I can read you the actual first line inside.
I really love that idea of you just go, well, let's strip the sci-fi out, because you don't. I understand there's a huge amount of sci-fi suspension of disbelief in The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, but you don't really go, oh, this is a sci-fi first and foremost. Oh no, wait, it's a crime. I'm so confused. I don't know what to do. This isn't my genre. Shit, I'd better put it down. You're just like, this is incredible.
I think
it's like when you read The Time Traveler's Wife, you didn't think, well, this isn't a romance that I want. This is shit. He could be a right.
I think that's a very important point, actually, because the question of genre is one that, while I was reading Devil in the Dark Water, that the question of genre is a tough one with that one. Where would you put it? Because I've got a broader point to make, though, because some books, for me, first fawning moment here, go well beyond the restriction of genre, and this is one of them. Like, the genre's not necessary. It's just a great read, and it doesn't matter.
But I think both do.
Yes, no, absolutely, because
both do exactly the same thing.
Yes. And that's a testament to just great storytelling rather than anything else. I think that's the overwhelming thing, isn't it? Like, if a story needs to be told, genre be damned, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you. I don't think about genre at all. It wasn't like I set out to write a book that was in 3 genres or 4 genres or whatever people describe it. So what's been mad is that when Seven Deaths first hit, everybody was like, well, it's a crime novel with science fiction, and then people, ascribed all these different genres, which I never really paid much attention to. And then at some point, somebody hit upon the idea of just calling me a cross-genre author, as though being cross-genre was in itself a genre. And that's the point when you've got 2 levels of meta, isn't it? Where you're just like, everyone's just throwing their hands up and giving up. I don't get it. Like, all I'm doing, for me, is I have an idea for a story that I want to tell and sounds pretty cool and will keep me occupied. Like, honestly, my starting point for all stories is, I write slowly, this will take me 2 years, and I have to be entertained for 2 years, first and foremost, because I don't like sitting down at my computer and writing. I find it incredibly difficult. I don't want to do it. So I've got to know that day I will write something that will entertain me. So these are the stories I come up with to do that. That's the only way I can sit down and do my job, is to have stories like broad enough, with a big enough palette to explore enough issues and go into enough genres that I can do it. And I swear to you honestly, I never think about the genre before I start. It's never a thing. Apart from the fact that it will be crime, because I love having a mystery and then someone investigating it as a driver. Like, I love that. Gives me a sense of narrative purpose. I don't know how people in literary fiction do it. Like, a literary fiction novel can have someone leave their house and go in any direction and talk to anyone about any dull thing at any point, and that can be the entire novel. And I don't know how they do it. I don't know how you find a through path through that. if you're rating mystery, that person has to find out about that thing. So I know every page, at least where the flag is in the distance. But beyond that, I don't know.
Because I take you back to, you said, you've got a sort of classic Agatha Christie kind of model in your head for the Seven Deaths, but also that carries into the Devil in the Dark Water. And I read the Devil in the Dark Water as the book. Your publisher kindly sent us a copy, but I listened to it as an audio book as well. And listening to it as an audio book, it's just it's really hard to explain, but it feels like there's an old writer in there, like an old classicist, telling me the story, and the word, the phraseology, the choice of word, everything is. It feels old and classic in the very best possible way of that. It's like you've taken the best of the classics and shaped that into a modern vernacular that works.
I think
that has sci-fi, but it's so incredibly lyrical when you read it that you're like, oh. Sorry, I said I was fanboy. I did warn you.
No, thank you. Do you know what? I think a lot of that is brought by. Obviously, I worked really hard on the language, and I do generally care about the writing of the novel and the structure as much as the structure. I care about the structure of the paragraphs. I care about the way similes are formed, the metaphors are formed, and I enjoy that part of my writing. Like, I spend a ridiculous amount of time crafting pages, and I hate. Sorry, I just used the word crafting like an absolute tosser.
No.
It's just
like you can buy your manuscript from public.
Yeah, it did. Oh God, that's awful. I've been in this profession now too long. If I'm using words like crafting, I quit. I retire.
That's it. I'm out.
I'm out. I'm done. This podcast has ended it for me. I'm done.
Oh God, boys, what have we done?
Well, at least we got an exclusive.
Yeah, right.
Not the one we want.
No.
Stu retires.
I'm a silver linings guy. Seriously.
He's just signed for the third book, but we've killed it.
I just hang myself on the podcast. This is gone. This is really spiraled.
This has taken a turn. All we were saying was that you were really good at right?
Yeah.
I was like, we don't know how we got him there, but
we were complimenting him, for God's sake.
He just
talk about a writer not being able to take a compliment.
No, I do, but it's funny. So that when they got Julian Rand-Tuttin to do the audiobook, the narration of that couldn't have been a more perfect fit for the way that book sounds in my head. Because it will surprise no one that my books do not sound like my voice in my head at all. And obviously, chatting me today, I do not talk in any way the same way that my books are written. I am neither that eloquent, I am neither that verbose. I just I swear too much, and I'm slightly northern. And so when they got him in to do that, I was like, yes, that sounds like the guy who wrote my book. That was generally my first thought when I heard his audio sample. I was like, he actually sounds the way my book was written, and that's brilliant. So I think a lot of that lyricism comes out of his narration of it. I really do. I think he brings that to it. And I've listened to a little bit because just through samples, he finds humour in it. There's a sort of twinkle in his voice as he's reading through. There are jokes in there. And there's when the characters are talking to each other, I wanted that to feel like a lived-in friendship. And as we're discovering, that is by taking the piss and having a laugh. And those characters have that. He finds something in the actual exposition and description. He finds a level of humour in that just through his narration. I think it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, he really manages to pull out the nuances between all of the relationships. Between the main character. It's really lovely to listen to. You go through a friendship or a deference or a soldier, or it's just the relationship between characters. It's obviously there in the writing, but it's brought beautifully to life.
As a small sort of suggestion of how great a job that I feel that he did. It's a 15-hour audiobook, isn't it? I mean, it's not a small. So so when I got it for a credit on Audible, because I obviously was in the same boat as Sean, but I get this thing, and I had it with Michael Connolly recently, where if I know I'm going to enjoy something, I put it off, and I put it off, and I knew then it was like, oh God, Stu's coming on Sunday. I've got to. I can't keep putting this off now, because when you I know it's going to impact me, and I feel like I'm, and I've done that with so many amazing authors, and so yeah, and I got through this 15-hour audiobook in 3 days, I think it was. I've got 3 kids and I've got deadlines of my own, and it's like that tells you how great, and how immersed into that world I completely was. Like the dog walk, instead of it being like a 20-minute jog, it was like a 2.5 hour. One day, the dog coming back exhausted. Like I was dragging the dog on the
His dog is tiny. It's got tiny little legs. The poor thing's probably half the size by the time you got back.
It's extremely horny at the moment. This dog.
No,
I don't know what to do about it.
Vomiting. Horny.
I've told you what to do about it. You need to get the dog done.
I think
she'll be fine.
Because I literally can't take her anywhere. It causes a scene.
Can I just confirm that when we say get the dog done, we're talking about the snip and not killing the dog?
Yeah, we're talking about.
Right, okay.
No.
I think I'm already beginning to pick up on a certain Sean vibe at the moment, which is like his first option would be to kill the dog, and the second option would be to neuter it. But that's a far different second. Sean's just like, you've got a river near you. I don't see the problem.
No, I was at a certain point at the end of the book, because I do a bit like, right, read a couple of chapters in the beautiful print, and then listen to a couple of things. And my wife ordered a table from Facebook Marketplace, and I had to go to Runcorn of all places to get it yesterday.
Oh, you poor bastard!
I know, man. And I'm sat on the drive, but I couldn't go because I had to listen to the final chapter.
Aww.
So I had to sit on the drive, and they were all like, they were in the window like, is he having a breakdown? Is he quite all right? It was just like, I can't go yet. I can't go.
Do you not have a stereo in your car, then?
I do, but I fumbled with the connecting thing.
I mean, this is the least insightful podcast we've ever done. Rob's dog is horny and he can't use his Bluetooth in his car. But other than that,
you get all the good stuff. Honestly, you get all the good stuff.
At this point,
Chris, have you got anything sensible?
Do you know it's next door to my hometown? That is, I'm from Widnes, so that is.
Are you from Widnes? Oh man, I did want to ask you where you were from, Stu. I hope that's all right to ask that. But like, so are you still based around Widnes, or are you?
No, mate. I wrote a piece for the Guardian saying how much I hate Widnes, and then I'm not allowed to go back. So that went really, really badly.
Really.
So the library doesn't stock you anymore, then?
The local councillor campaigned to have my books taken off the shelves in the library. I was so demonised. It ran in the Liverpool Echo. It ran in the local news.
But not in the Guardian.
They didn't know.
So whatever.
No, they found the Guardian. They found my mum's Facebook page. They found my Twitter page.
Oh my god.
They threw dog poo at my childhood home, which I'd not lived in for 25 years. So,
the poor people who bought it must be like, he doesn't live here.
He doesn't live here. It's just like, it's not, oh no, dog poo in the face. He's still not here.
This isn't supposed to be comedy. Oh my word. Because I'm down the road in Warrington.
Oh,
Yeah. So, holy moly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my God. So, where are you now, Stu? If I can ask that.
Yeah, mate. I'm in Hertfordshire. I live just outside London.
Lovely.
So, yeah.
And do you really love it? Do you love Hertfordshire? Nobody's going to throw poo at you.
It's an entirely wonderful place where nobody has ever just called me a C word as I walk down the street for no reason whatsoever. It's just never come up. So some days, I'm just waiting for it, but as yet, not happened. But
at least Chris is a teacher, so now he's known as Mr. C Word in our local environment. Good. Chris, have you got any sensible questions?
Well, I was going to ask at this stage. About 2 minutes in, we usually ask, can you tell us a little bit about your book? And I realise we've just sort of gone off pretty fast. So can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Red hot inside.
I feel ridiculous now. Do you know what? This has now immediately got the vibe of just sitting in the pub with my mates. And I feel like, do you know when you're with your mates and they're like, I don't care what you do. Yeah. I don't care about anything that you... None of that matters to me. I do. So so Devil and Darkwater, my second novel, is set in 1634. This is my elevator pitch. I feel so fucking awful giving this to other authors because every author knows the elevator pitch as well.
I like get to a point where I absorb other ones. Like, oh, that's a good one, and I try, and then base mine on that one. Oh, that's a good, yeah.
This one isn't good because it's my second novel. It doesn't need to be good for the second novel. Is what I've worked out. It needed to be good for the first one to get that book. But the second one, no one cares. Like, I had a 2-book deal. Nobody cares. It's the way that seemed to work. 1634. It's set on a merchant vessel that's leaving Jakarta to go into Amsterdam on an 8-month voyage. And as soon as it sets out to sea, devilry begins to blight the voyage. Strange symbols, animals turn up dead. Really spooky, creepy stuff starts happening. It all points to there being a demon on board the ship, and the demon threatens to sink them and kill them all. Thankfully, the world's greatest detective is on board the ship, and he can sort it out. Unfortunately, he's a prisoner on the ship, and he can't do a thing to help. So it's left to his Watson-style sidekick to step up and solve the mystery in his stead with the help of a brilliant noblewoman with a fairly terrible secret. And that's my elevator pitch.
It's just perfect.
It's
such a good book. Honestly, it blows my mind.
Can I? I mean, has anyone ever said to you before, Stu, like, you make me sick?
Yeah. Every day.
I'm not from Widnes, so but this was so good. I want to be sick. That's and you can have that for the cover if you like.
Yeah. I would vomit on this.
You make me sick.
So good, it made me want to vomit. Right. One of the things that I really always want to know is that this is it's process really. I mean, you said 2 years. 2 years is a heck of a. It's a commitment, isn't it? It's a discipline. What is your writing process? I suppose it's a very broad question, but
no.
Our listeners love a bit of insight.
Yeah, that's fine. So, this book, I'm going to wheel back a bit if you don't mind. So, when I was writing Seven Deaths was, for anyone who doesn't know, Seven Deaths was my first novel. That was about, I'd say 12 years in the making. So, the idea took a long time to arrive. Like, I've wanted to write a novel since I was about 8 years old. I tried for the first time when I was 21, and it was dreadful. And I put it aside. I only got about 40,000 words into it, realised it wasn't working. Then I put it aside to try and work out what I needed to do to fix it. I needed an original idea. That's what I came up with, and that took 12 years. So then that thing happens, right, where you've had 12 years of thinking and planning and plotting, and then you start writing, and there's no deadlines, there's no pressure. You're just writing in, as we go about bedrooms and masturbation. You're just every night with time to kill. And I didn't have a child, nothing. So I'm just writing. And it was cool. And it was going along. And I had time to be experimental and sort of like write a chapter that I knew wasn't going to work because it would lead me to the chapter I wanted. All that sort of stuff. And I planned that novel for 3 months solidly. So I didn't write a word of it. I planned it for 3 months. And then I went away and did loads of research and then started writing it. And then, as you can imagine from the way, that took 32 drafts, that novel. Because things were constantly, even though I had the plan, things were constantly being pulled because I'd suddenly have too many chapters of exposition or dialogue or explanation. Something needs to come out and more action needs to come in. I need to speed it down, or it was too fast, I need to slow it down. So I kept altering it and adjusting it. And that took about 3 years and about 6 months of editing. Then it gets published and you get your contract, which is amazing, and a 2-book contract, and someone's like, can you do all of that again in a year and a half? And you're like, no, I can't. What I also decided to do was have a child. So a month after I started writing Devil, we had our daughter, which is the most patently ridiculous thing that you can ever possibly do. Because to go into the process of the way I write is I plan meticulously, 3 months. I know first page to last page. I know all my ins and outs. I don't know my characters yet. They're just silhouettes that will do things eventually. And I find them in the writing. But once I plan the book, it's done. The plan goes away. I never look at it again. It's all internalized. And then I can go to it anytime I want. So, and I don't write in chronology either. So I can write chapter 15, I can write chapter 17. Yeah, mate, I can write chapter 2. It's the only, mate, I swear, it's the only fucking skill I have, honestly. Apart from getting dog food thrown at me and witness, this is the only skill I've got.
But you can maintain the voice. I mean, like, you can know the voice for pages and pages, like hundreds of pages in advance. You can just go there, and that's incredible.
Yeah. So I know... Yeah, and I don't like. It's the only thing I can do. Like, I've got a memory for my own plots and knowing how. I don't know. So the only thing I find hard with that system usually is trying to remember as I go along what the character thinks they know versus what they actually should know. Yeah. Which every mystery novelist has. Like, what are the audience thinking that character knows, and blah blah blah. So, and normally that's fine. And for 7 Deaths, it was absolutely fine. Even with all the complexity, it was absolutely fine. When I got to Devil and had my daughter, I was getting an hour to 2 hours sleep a night. I wasn't holding anything in my head. There was no information in my brain whatsoever. I was very, very lucky that my body knew how to regulate itself, its heartbeat, because I just would have stopped doing those things and keeled over dead. It was the most destroyed I've ever been in my entire life. See all this, and no one else can see it. All this grey hair, all of this is my daughter. All of this. All of the 2 years.
It's not writing Devil in the Dark Water. It's definitely your daughter.
No, it's definitely my daughter did to this, and she will pay for it one day.
You wait till she brings a boyfriend.
She'll know better. So I couldn't do that. So what I did instead was basically run into walls for a year because I had a deadline. And I was convinced I was going to hit the deadline. I was convinced that my entire career rested on the back of Devil not being a shit book. I genuinely believe that the first book, it can be luck, and the readers will believe it can be luck or a fluke. The second book is your career. That's the way I've always thought, that if you get your second book right, people are like, right, he's done it twice, you can do it a third time, he's an author worth following. And that seems to be, Twitter and people who've responded, that seems to have actually been the case. People are like, actually, he's done this twice now, I've enjoyed 2 books. The next one's a must-buy. Everything he writes will be a must-buy. That seems to have... So, but when I was writing it, that was my only goal. And I didn't have the plot. I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just writing words after words after words every day. And those words were not connecting with each other. They weren't connecting page to page. They weren't connecting paragraph to paragraph. They were just words. Stream of consciousness words, one after another, one after another. I wrote, this is the God's honest truth, 170,000 words in a year, and I kept 16,000 words of them, of that draft. I tossed it all. It was a mess. It was just awful.
Did you not keep it as an aid memoir of what it's like for an author to try and write a book whilst having a newborn baby? And just publish that separately as your piece of literary fiction?
That's like saying to Dante, when you were down in hell, did you keep notes? Like, do you want to refresh yourself occasionally? Burned in, mate. Look at the grey. Every bit of grey.
If he hadn't, how did the Crucible ever exist if he hadn't kept the notes?
Yeah. So Virgil did it all for him.
Yeah, he's a good lad.
Yeah, but it was awful. So I wrote all these words, and what happened was after that first year, she started to sleep through the night. She went to childcare, and then all of a sudden, I was me again. But I was already a year. I smashed the first year of my 1.5-year deadline. So I went to the publisher. It's going to be later. It's going to be later. They were like, "Cool. How much later?" And I was like, 3 months. And then 3 months became 6 months. Became I don't know how long. I missed 5 deadlines on that novel. Put it that way. And now it's out when it's out this year, rather than it should have been summer last year, I think, was the original deadline date. And so, sorry, long-winded way of talking about process. But what I've found, what I've sort of settled into now, is that my comfortable way of working is to do that internalized thing, hold it all together, and then edit. I write in the afternoon and I edit in the morning. So everything that I wrote the day before gets edited in the morning. I look over it, refreshes for me for that day, and then I blast through and write something fresh for the afternoon. And I only ever write about 1,000 to 2,000 words a day. And even if I'm in the mood, I won't carry on. I'll just stop and just say, I know myself, it's not going to be any good. There's nothing past this point that will be good. I'm not going to find a nugget of gold. I'm just not that writer. So
yeah. I think that's really interesting because definitely a past a 2,000 word limit for me, there's a lot more if then and but, if then and but, if then and but, if then. There you go. There's loads of words. I'm done.
Yeah.
And there's a point at which you're making more work for your editing self.
Yeah, that's exactly what I found, that I give myself too many options for the edit the day after. Like, oh, it should be that version or this version, or maybe that version's the better way to go about it. And actually, they're all dog whistles. So, like when I edit, that's the thing I'm really aware of. It's the only thing I've learned from books 1 and 2 is that on Seven Deaths, I was really hung up on the dog whistles. I was really hung up on the things that only I cared about and the reader was never, ever going to pay attention to, would never fucking notice. Whereas the second one, I've been a lot more sort of like, that's a dog whistle, don't worry about it. Like, that's not that line that gets you from A to B just needs to get you from A to B. It doesn't need to be the world's most beautiful piece of writing.
Just leave it be.
It's
fine for now.
This expression, dog whistle, though. What can you just? Because this might actually really help me with my own work. Can you just describe that to me, please? Sorry, Stu.
Yeah, well, just again, it's exactly what it sounds like. Mate, a dog whistle, like, is obviously a thing that only the dog can hear. Like, it's somebody blows it, and it drives the dog absolutely wild. In my writing, I used to have a tendency, I still do on days, to get absolutely caught up on one paragraph that I don't feel it. The one paragraph, one line feels clunky, and I'm like, it's killing me. Like, it's just. But all the paragraph has to do is explain how, say, Aaron's walked across the deck. Like, that was one of them. Generally, all Aaron was doing was getting from there to there with Sammy by his side. And I write really visually. I see the novel really visually.
Yeah.
So I've got to describe it exactly how I see it. Otherwise, I'm not satisfied. And I could not get the gist of how they were walking along each side and how that looked, like the difference in the height between characters, the difference, the width, who was around them. And I couldn't find a way to get that paragraph to completely describe that scene. And I was on it for a day. I was just a day on this paragraph, just trying to get this stupid thing written. And eventually I was like, all they need to know is that these two fucking men are walking across the deck. You dickhead. Like, just stop it. And just write that the
rein it in.
Just write it, and you come back to it. And then, like, once you free yourself of the dog whistle, once you've heard it, and you're like, stop it, put it down, you will come back to it later. Like, it's just.
And you know that, I mean, like, for the audience, every time you mention Aaron and Sammy walking together, we're just going, the bear and the sparrow. There they go. We know what they look like. We know what they look like because they're a bear and a sparrow. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense to me because that's the most evocative a description of that it puts them exactly in a place.
And that's why I put that in there, because that was exactly the bear and the sparrow. It was my shortcut way of not having to do that every single time, because I was so about how do these guys look together? What is the dynamic?
This guy.
That's exactly it, isn't it? And that was so important that Sammy, despite being in chains on this boat, fits the boat far more readily than Aaron done. Aaron, for all his strength, can't use it on this ship. Not really, because he's always hunched over. He's always put his. Like, his size and his strength is useful on the land and completely useless on this ship. Whereas Sammy's relatively smaller size and stature makes the boat far more comfortable for him, but he can't experience it, he can't use it. And again, all that stuff went into this idea, and it just had to be Bear and the Sparrow. Just write that down, move on, you're fine. It's all gold.
It's perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
More. Just keep going on, Sean, honestly. Honestly, more.
Just perfect.
Yeah,
this great. Line also was perfect.
Yeah. This is what I need. I just need some sort of literary fluffer. That's what I need. Wonderful.
Gee, I mean, I'm supposed to have some credentials, but literary fluffer I can't do.
Needs to be Twitter bio.
Normally, when Chris gets things back from me, it's a "fuck you, I'm crying." You're a dickhead. You shouldn't have written that bit. Whereas you just get, well, that was perfect. So Chris.
My Alison's edit. Alison Hennessy is my editor at Raven, who is just entirely wonderful. But all her edits, nearly every one of her edits, is what is this person feeling? What is this person feeling? What is this person? I don't do emotion. I'm terrible at emotion. And I have just this little clockwork heart inside of me that just ticks. That's all that ever happens. And I'm like, at this point, he's just curious about the mystery. It's like, at this point you'd be devastated and sad about something. And I'm like, what is this thing you call sad? And then we have to have a prolonged conversation.
I find, Stu, this is absolutely fascinating to me because my first book came out in 2017, I was at Bloody Scotland in 2014, and Alison was one of the moderators on one of the panels. She was a guest on one of the panels, and she was the first editor I saw, like in the flesh, talking about editing, and I was just like, wow, so that's what. And I immediately, since then struck up a conversation with her online and whatever. She's been, for me, one of the great editorial voices in the genre for a long time. The genre, as we say, in inverted commas,
Which one's that?
Yeah, which genre is this? But when she went off to do Bloomsbury Raven, like that was like hugely exciting. I immediately I was very intrigued by it. But like, what is it like working with Alison?
It's awful. I couldn't save me, Sean. Save me, take me away.
With all of her emotion. Coming in here with your what's it feeling? Who cares? Get from A to B, you big man.
Yeah, with all her coming in here with all her sort of knowledge and skill. It's,
do you not find though when you read your edits that your first response, no matter how much you trust your editor, is no. No, maybe you're right. Maybe
no. I can generally journalism background, so like I'm very lucky that as a journalist I only ever had one bad editor, only ever one.
That is bloody good.
You're really good. So all the other editors I had were absolutely sensational, and they made me better. And when I came to Alison, I don't know if this is the case, but just chatting with her and getting an idea of what she was about, because Seven Deaths went out to a few publishers. We were very lucky enough to have interest from a few people, and it was very clear in those conversations kind of how they would edit and what the focus would be and what they enjoyed and wanted to change. And I kind of knew going in what Alison was about. She's a brilliant communicator. She's brilliant at just being like, she doesn't, when she edits, there's no sort of like, I don't know quite what it is, but I think I want something. I don't quite know what I want, but it needs something in here to do a thing. It's very like, that isn't working. Let's put this there, and then this will give this. And it's perfect for me. She's the perfect person to talk to me about my rating. So, and she's excellent at, I don't know how often this is the case, and it is brilliant luck, but she's fantastic at all the things that I am bad at. She is great at sort of as I said, the emotional, the bit of the book where it's just like, put some heart in it, just have a little bit of it. And just taking a moment to breathe. My books don't breathe. They are just lumps of incident. That is what I crush them until there's only incident. And then Alison, in her
I'd like to say you crush them until they're diamonds of incident.
Yeah, there you go.
Carry on as you were. I don't want to edit you while you're talking. Carry on.
They are, so that's it. The lumps of incident, lumps of diamond of incident, or diamonds of lumps of incident, or turds of incident.
Turd diamonds
of incident. So it's bad. So she is. We just have. It's lovely. So when I get my notes back, I can genuinely, honestly say that I am not doing that thing where I'm like, oh, fuck, no, you're wrong about all of this. And something, because for me, it's how do I describe this? It is for the book to become a book and to be on a shelf and to have covers on it and for people to buy it and for me to pay my bills. That stage has to happen, and I'm hungry to get there. I want it to happen. I want to get past it. I want this book to be, by the time I've written a book, I want it to be out of my life. I want it to be gone away from me. So it needs to go to Alison. It needs to come back to me. I need to get through the editing stage, because then I can start the next book, which is what I'm going to be excited about. So it's not. I actually kind of enjoy it, because it's just the end of the race for me.
I think that's so interesting, that as well, that because the editor, and I'm looking at you here, Sean and Chris, the editor-author relationship, though, is something that I think is dead important. I think most authors would say it's dead important. But no, on a personal note, Alison, at that point in my career in 2014, well before being published, she gave me some advice that I sent her a rambling message, and I don't really know what I'm asking you, Alison. I don't know really what I'm doing, you know. And she said, I don't know what you're at.
Stop now.
Yeah, no. She said, she said, I don't really know what you're asking either, but keep going. And it just stuck with me, you know. Like, it's just one. She didn't need to write that to me at all, you know. She was dead lovely about it. So yeah, I always have big respect for Alison for that. Always big respect.
Well, again, Alison's thing is that she, I mean, not to speak out of turn, not to speak on her behalf, but I'm about to do both, is that she understands that her success, and she's great at things, is finding as many voices as she possibly can, as many stories as she possibly can. She doesn't buy a lot every year. Like, that imprint doesn't publish a lot every year.
Yeah.
Because she likes to have her hands on everything that comes through, and she's really, really interested in, you know, she wants everything to have a certain tone to it and a certain thing that is hers. So yeah, like, she has no. I've never seen Alison be rude to anybody who wasn't rude to Alison first, because she does. There's no value in that. And I've heard stories about people who are rude, authors who are rude, publishers who are rude, editors who are rude. I never understand it. I never understand the purpose of it. If you don't understand how incredibly lucky you are in any of those roles to be at this point in your career, I don't know what you're doing here, and I have no time for you at all.
Totally agree with you.
But also, if you don't understand how small the industry is as well, if you're not going to make it doesn't matter how successful you are, you're not going to make friends being rude to people.
No,
everybody's on the way up somewhere, you know.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just like it's again, and it's strange. Like, a lot of the bigger authors, I would expect them to be terrible before I come in, and now I've met them. They generally all seem to be relatively lovely. They all seem to have a time for you and a word for you. And it's just like,
I like the way you sit there going, the bigger authors as your multi-best-selling. I'm just, you know, paraphrasing. There are some lists in there.
There's always a bigger author, and there's always a much bigger. Yeah. And like, so for me, it's like especially if you go to the crime festivals, right? They're there. Yeah. These are the guys who are selling. They put a book out and it will definitely sell 1 million copies. That is a hell of a thing, just to be know that about your book.
And they don't even have to have written it themselves.
This is usually the bit of the podcast where we pause for gossip.
Yeah. No.
He's had a glass of wine.
I know,
yeah. Wine makes me fighty. I can drink beer all the time, and then I'm just pleasant. But I start on the Chardonnay, and I'm.
Come here, Patterson.
Come here, Patterson. I'm a multi-million bestseller. Are you?
Are we allowed to know anything about what's coming next?
From me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're asking me, Stu.
No, we already know what's coming out of you.
Oh, it's fighty, isn't it? Bloody hell!
I know.
Only because I'm publishing it.
Yeah, that's true.
God, it's been knocking on your door. Well, I just signed another 2-book deal with Raven, which is really nice. And what do I want to say? No. I won't say too much because they change quite a lot, and it's a weird thing to sort of like set into stone what the book is going to be before because I've only just started planning it. Right. So my idea for it at the moment, I would say I'm terrified of it. Like, that's a good start for me, because I was terrified of 7 Deaths and I was terrified of Death. Like, genuinely terrified. Like, I don't know if I can pull off what I'm trying to do. And this one has got a conceit that just makes those look simple. It makes those look like my first novel. Like, it's going to be, it's a bit, I know, it's a bit scary. I'm slightly giddy with the possibility of it. If I pull it off, it will be, I might just stop immediately and just like give them money back for the 4th book, because it's going to be something else. But again, I don't know if I can pull it off, and I might have to, if I can't, I might have to go on to the idea for the 4th book and then sort of retreat back to it later on when I've got a bit more skill behind me.
See, I love hearing you saying that, though, because I'm working at the publishing schedule for next year, and I've worked in writing the book that I've been sitting on for probably about 10 years now. And I've written 5, 7 others, 9, 12 others in between that time. But This one it keeps haunting me, and the reason I can't start writing it is because it's fucking terrifying. And it is terrifying in that sense of there's so much stuff that has to be absolutely right, and it's not. And if I get it right, I think it'll be the best thing I've ever written, and then I won't be able to write anything else.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm feeling, and I'll start it on tomorrow.
Oh, nice! Well done, mate. That's brilliant.
Oh, dude, you just
don't know because now it's pressure.
No.
It's all plotted.
If it gets you going,
I think it's all plotted.
Go.
I can't believe you talk about pressure. You've not written it for 12 years. Like, the pressure has been. I think the pressure has been there.
Yeah, it's been bubbling.
Like, nothing we say today is going to be like.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, don't fuck it up.
Yeah. Listen for the dog whistle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've got that.
Hi, I'm Rob.
I'm Simon.
And I'm James.
We want to talk about those movies. Those supposedly bad movies. Those movies that bombed.
To see if they weren't that bad after all, join us every other Tuesday on the For Your Reconsideration podcast, part of the Pod Dojo podcast network.
You can catch us on iTunes, Spotify, and all your usual podcast apps.
And it won't cost you a solitary bean, mate.
It's like it's free.
It's just like it's free.
Can I ask about you're obviously featured on Under the Covers on Friday night. I always sort of get this thing as soon as someone achieves like a level of fame, you're almost expected to be like good at that kind of stuff. Did you find it? I mean, you were brilliant, and the reading and all the stuff you did was great. But did you find it out of your comfort zone to go and like sort of sit on that boat and act a bit and stuff like that, or was it all right?
No, it was fine. I don't have any problem with that side of it. I never have. Like, I quite enjoy it. I quite enjoy chatting to people. As I said, the bit for me that's difficult is the writing, is the act of writing, the sitting. And not even, this got mistranslated in an interview I did for somebody, and they went absolutely, weirdly ballistic. So it was an Italian newspaper, and they translated it as me saying, I hate writing. And then everyone was like, but he's so fortunate to be a writer. How could he be so? And I had to go on and be like, this is not what I said. What I said is I don't like the act of writing. I don't like the act of sitting down at my computer for 6 to 8 hours a day. I find that extremely difficult. So that part for me is difficult. The release is the book being finished and going on the road and chatting to people and being on stages and going to festivals and meeting people and having a pint. Like, this year I enjoy. This is great. I'm talking about the thing that I know best in the world. Being on the boat was fun. Meeting those guys was fun. Doing all that sort of stuff was really, really good, and I enjoyed it, and I wouldn't be without it. But I think it comes from the journalism, because most of my days were go and interview somebody, turn up at a place, do a thing, and half of interviewing a celebrity is acting, like you're pretending that you like them or their product to get more information out of them.
Or you know anything about them.
Oh, God, so many of those. Do you know what's awful about that? What's awful about that is I've done it to so many people that now I know that it's been done to me.
You're like, here, mate, I brought you a crib sheet.
Yeah, exactly. I had one woman, brilliantly, it was on a US book tour. And it was the US book tours are like, they're just massively intense, and they're just like fly to a city, do an event, fly to another city, do an event, and that's your entire life. And it's just a well-storied trail, and I appreciate that they don't have time to get to all of the books, because they probably had an author in there yesterday, they'll have an author in there tomorrow. But this woman was adamant, absolutely adamant that she'd read my book, and she hadn't, like, it was so obvious she hadn't. And she was supposed to do a podcast interview with me at the end of it. And you could see her just shitting it all the way through it about this podcast interview, because she'd asked the 3 generic questions you can ask about a book without reading it. She'd already done those on the live event and didn't want to do them again for the podcast. So there was 2 of us on the panel, me and this other novelist. And she was like, at the end of it, she was like, do you know what would be really fun, I think, if you interviewed each other about your books? I think that'd be really good. Yeah, why don't you do that? I'm trying to abstain herself from having to do the podcast interview. When the woman was like, No, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to admit this, but I haven't read Stuart's book. You could just see a little face just die inside a heart, just drop through the floor. And we sat on a podcast and did the most excruciating interview ever about, and the interview came out as something that she did know, which was the history of Britain in the 1900s. That's what we did, and we talked about taxation in Britain in the 1900s for 7 deaths, because that's what she knew, and she knew about like why country houses had fallen into disrepair. It was
the most important theme of 7 deaths, taxation.
Yeah, taking a leaf out of George Lucas. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah. Oh lordy. Anyway.
Oh, fuck's sake. Did she not even talk about plague doctors or anything?
No, mate, she had not read a word of it. Not a word. And it's fact, like, honestly, like, it's fine. Like, she hosted the interview, she did her best. She didn't have time. That's fine. Just front up. But it was more the fact that she was so adamant that she'd read it. Loved it, Stu. Loved it. Great book. Loved it. What's it about? It's about a lady called Evelyn who dies 7 times. Yeah.
Had she accidentally read that the 7 husbands of Evelyn somebody else, or whatever that
the better book
thing was?
The better 7.
No, I don't think it was a better 7 Evelyn book. I just thought, what the hell are they doing, stealing this title? Fuck them.
No, we stole her. We totally stole her title. We completely.
Oh, good.
Yeah. No,
I blamed her because I thought yours was better, but I haven't.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, no, well, to be fair, we stole Claire North's title. That's what we did. How many lives? 15 First Lives of Harry August? Is that what it is? Yeah,
yes.
I think 15. Anyway, I stole that. I stole that wholesale. I completely admit that because it's such a great title and it kind of worked for this, so I took it. And then when we came to the US, we were supposed to publish it at the same time. And then this is a true story as well. They bought it for no money in the US without any expectation of it doing much. And they did a thing where the editor buys it and have the power to buy it, but the rest of the company at that point hadn't really seen it. And then at some point they have an annual meeting, a general meeting with the company, and everyone takes their books in, and that's when they all read them for the first time. And they read it and were like, "This is actually quite a good book." The editor's like, "Oh, I know, I bought it." It's like, I mean, how much marketing are we giving this? It's like about 27 pence, I think, probably. And the marketing was like, well, I think we'll give it a bit more money. So what they did is they pushed it back for 6 months to give it a bit more of a push and give it some more marketing, which was brilliant. And in the intervening time, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo came out, which threw them into a massive tiz because they weren't sure. There's something to do with the way the books are sold in the US, and it's all very much to do with titles. And if that title sells badly, then your title will probably sell badly. It's all in the title rather than the book, it seems to be. So we had this meeting, that's what happened. They were like, we've got to change the name of this book, we've got to change the name of the book. And we went round in circles for like 3 months trying to change the title of that book, and everything was on the table. Really, at one point it was almost it wasn't almost because I vetoed it, but it was put forth that it could be like the Everlasting Life of Evelyn Hardcastle, which is entirely not what.
Which is not the book.
Well, she dies, so she hasn't really got an everlasting life because she dies, and
the whole fucking point.
Yeah, I was on the phone in that tone having a conversation, but like I'm not really incredibly against the title, but she dies. Like, that was anyway. So round in circles, and eventually it was the only thing we could compromise on was the 7.5 deaths, and that was its own peculiar nightmare of just people thinking that the 7 Husbands was the sequel to 7 Deaths, or that 7.5 Deaths was the prequel to Evelyn Hugo. One lovely old man turned up at Harrogate, I think, with all 3, thinking that they were a trilogy. And his so he mentioned to his daughter or something that he liked 7 Deaths, and she'd gone and bought him the other 2, thinking that she would do a trilogy, and he just got me to sign all 3 of them for him. Apparently enjoyed. Very nice. Yeah.
He didn't bring any 50 Shades in with him as well, for just
his wife.
A good number measure.
Clearly enjoying that immensely. Yeah, funny stories.
At this stage,
Now
should we
you
hit it with a
mentioned a
1-star?
1-star, your 1-star loveliness.
Mm.
Have you had any 1-star reviews?
Oh, loads, mate. Yeah, people fucking hate my books. Like which is absolutely
People can fuck off.
nah. Like it's not every book is for every person, right? Like it just isn't. And I write
You'd
books
hope
that.
not.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I write. Otherwise, we're all 50 Shades lovers, aren't we? So, speaking of masturbation,
And Rob's dog.
Keep my dog out of it.
Yeah, so I don't mind. It's just 1-star's a 1-star. Like you just that book wasn't for you. It was doing something that you didn't enjoy. Like that's fine. Like I don't really care. Like I generally said on Twitter today. Like I get bummed out by 3-star reviews. Like I find those really sort of like they just piss me off. A 3-star review. It's nothing. It's not anything. It just I don't.
It's neither fishing nor mending nets, is it?
Yeah, it's like
love the expression. Yeah,
that is a great expression. I hope that goes in the new book. That would be fantastic.
I'm sure I nicked it from The Devil in the Dark Water, but no. Is that my old granddad used to say it.
Really?
He worked in the fish market. If you're doing neither one thing nor the other, he'd always say you're neither fishing nor mending nets.
A 3-star review is the ultimate meh, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I can't believe that you could drag yourself to Amazon or to your like Waterstones or to like whatever your preferred reviewing vendor is to give me a 3-star review. Why were you that bothered about it? Like it's just 1 star I get, 5 stars I get, even 4 stars I get. 3 stars? Like 3 stars is like you put the book down and you've forgotten about it 10 seconds after you finish reading it. It's weird to me.
What was that called? 3 stars.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like I don't maybe you Chris and Rob are too young. I don't know when GCSE grading changed, but basically when I did mine, you could get an unclassified would be a U, and that was definitely you had fucking failed, and then you'd get an A through F or G maybe. And then there was an N, which was neither pass nor fail. It's
yeah.
And you're like, what is this grade? This is no help to anyone.
It was so far down the chain that it had to be bad. Like,
you're like, you may as well just fail me. If you can't be asked to pass me, just call it a fail.
Yeah, it was weird.
And that's the 3-star.
That is the 3-star. The 1 star is like I get loads, I get tons and tons of 1 stars. But I think I get disproportionately. I don't think both books so far haven't really reviewed in the middle. I don't get a lot of 3 stars. I get a lot of 1 stars or 5 stars to sort of blow my own horn both sides. Like that's just people either seem to really like them or they just despise them and don't get on with them. And I like that. I'm comfortable in that.
I can see why though, because you either go right, I'm on a journey here, and I'm in safe hands, off I go, or you start reading it because everybody said it's the next best big thing, and you go, but this isn't like what I normally read. I hate it.
Yeah, exactly. Or like I got some people who wanted me when I wrote 7 Deaths. They thought I was going to write 8 Deaths or a sequel, and I did. So even without having any awareness, they go into the devil waiting for the time for day to start again, or like for some familiar. I maybe have been a bit flippant about their expectation, but they're looking for more familiarity than I was giving them, and I become more interested in other things for my second book. So like the characters are deeper in the second book. That was what my focus was going into it. I wanted that. I wanted more relationships between my characters because I didn't get to do that in 7 Deaths. So that's where my focus was, and I slowed the mystery down a touch and brought in these other elements, these supernatural elements.
Which it really benefited from. I loved it.
Thank you. So I really enjoyed doing it, and that's the thing. Like for me to get up in the day and do that was fantastic. But there was readers who it's understandable as well. They wanted me to do 7 Deaths again, and if I wasn't going to do 7 Deaths, they wanted a book that was 7 Deaths in all but name, right? Like if it wasn't going to be sci-fi, it should still have the same elements that one had. But it didn't. It was it's a mystery, and it's got a detective, and it's got a body, but that's it. The rest of it, and I'm going to do the same for books 3 and 4. So I can get I get a lot of people being like, after 7 Deaths, I was incredibly disappointed by this. And what they're disappointed by was that it wasn't 7 Deaths again. That is always always the review. And there's nothing I can do about that.
But see, and isn't that interesting? Because the thing, as a reader and with nothing else in it, I read 7 Deaths with no I mean, I read it when it came out and just thought, I've seen this about. It looks really interesting. It looks right up my street. I'm reading it. I love it. I absolutely love it. There it is. It's beautiful. Oh my God, he's got another one out. Oh, fortunately, now we're in a position where the publisher sent me a copy. I've shat myself. I'm so excited. Sorry, Dad. You're not getting fed tonight. I'm reading this book. And what I loved about it was it had all of the elements of Seven Deaths for me that I loved, which was the classic murder mystery, the figuring out the detective, the jigsaw pieces, the clever, the intuitive detection, the opaqueness of hidden things and things misinterpreted, and everything being about character, and yet it was in an entirely different setting with entirely different things. But then it also had that sort of demons and devils, and it was just like, well, this has got even better than Seven Deaths. So good luck with the next one.
Thank you. Well, that's what again. But I like the idea as well that if you're writing a mystery novel, that to go back to the idea of genre, that almost the genre can be the mystery, that the reader can pick up a book and just be like, I don't know what I'm getting. Like, I have absolutely no clue where this will be set. I have no clue what elements this will contain. Those are as mysterious to me as the clues that will go into it, as the perpetrator, like broadening that sense of mystery out to everything. And also because it gives me, there's inbuilt advantages to writing standalones constantly with different time periods and different settings and different characters. You're always wrong-footed. From the first page, your reader's always wrong-footed. They don't know what's coming. They don't know what they're getting into. They don't know your heroes from your villains until I explicitly state them, and I never explicitly state them. I will have someone do something bad and then maybe do something good 2 pages later. Like, I always want my readers to feel unsteady and uneasy, and a little bit confused. And again, to go back to the reviews, it's surprising how many people don't like that. They just don't like that feeling. They don't like that sense.
I love it.
They want the comfort of it.
It's so I like when you open the first few pages of The Devil in the Dark Water, and you're reading that scene and the procession's going and they're getting stoned and Arendt's trying to protect him, and there's a moment where he gets distracted and he allows a chink of space and the stone comes through and that's it. That's the whole story summed up in that. It's just like that. In terms of characterization, there's no better example of how to summarize his role versus Sammy's role, and how he feels he has to interact with that person, and why he's there and what everything's for. Then that moment when he's allowed a tiny gap of light that allows a rock to, and of course, he can return it, and that's all fine. But he's allowed the gap to penetrate, and you just say, well, I know where we're going. I'm in safe hands. Settle down next week.
I tried to do that with every character. Like, because I found when I was writing Seven Deaths that it was hard to give characters introductions, and there were so many because he would automatically start each day in a new body. Usually that guy's going to be asleep, or they will be. It was hard to give them the dramatic introduction to get things moving. So I ended up having to sort of like have him wake up in peril, or wake up in the same person over and over again. So for this one, I wanted to take the opportunity that every time I introduced a main new character, you would have them in a moment that perfectly described them. They would be doing the thing that was their character. So my favourite one of those, again, just fluffing myself now, was Sarah when she tells her daughter to come and watch this person die. Like, we're going to kill this man, come and watch it. Because that was, when I wrote that, I go on about this, you guys will know this, I hope you do. Like, I say this to crowds of readers sometimes, it doesn't quite make sense. Sarah fucking wrote herself in this book. She was not mine. She was a secondary character in the plan. She was a suspect. She was supposed to be a bit recessed in the novel, coming, going. She was interacting with the mystery in her own ways, and she wasn't quite the protagonist that she became, and she wanted to be a protagonist. As I wrote her, as I was writing that character, she kept demanding more. She kept being funnier than I anticipated her being. She kept being more driven than I anticipated her being. Aaron, in contrast, was more reserved than I anticipated him being. He was far more reluctant to take over Sammy's role. He was far more. I had my plan of my lamppost where I was getting, these characters surprised me in how they interacted. So Sarah ended up taking more of what I thought Aaron would be doing and pushing herself further and further and further into the story. That scene, when she did that, honestly felt like it was an out-of-body thing. Like, I wrote that scene straight through. It never changed. There wasn't a word of that changed.
Where she took her daughter out of...
Yeah.
That is
Yeah. So that straight through, it's the only thing in that novel that didn't get massively edited or whipped around or changed slightly.
But it's really interesting with her as a character, because she genuinely does, from the outset, she even cautions her daughter not to be too intelligent a woman, and then spends her entire time admiring her daughter being intelligent but trying to hide it.
Yeah.
And you can see that character just went, I'm really fucking real, and I am main.
Yeah.
I'm main in this.
Yeah.
You're going to write me in, fella, whether you like it or not.
That was it. She's just there, just been like, I'll do this. And you're like, no, it's right. I'm doing it. It's like, oh, okay, you do it then.
I've got it covered. You sit back. Why don't you go and make yourself a tea? I'll be ready.
Fuck off, Arthur, man. I'm on this. Like, that's what it was.
Can I
love it when they do that.
Confess something partially embarrassing? I hope it's not completely embarrassing, but it is a little bit embarrassing. When I started,
my mum.
What a
How could that ever be embarrassing?
Forum to come out with this. No.
Your mum's a wonderful woman. That's not embarrassing.
No.
I call you Dad now. That's great.
More exclusives to the podcast.
Papa, is that you?
Nespa? When I first started reading and enjoying this book, I started, for whatever reason, picturing it as a 90s big budget action movie, specifically 90s. So I had my own casting for everybody.
You've had Steven fucking Seagal in it again.
No, I haven't. Arendt is not Steven Seagal. Don't know.
Get out.
But it's like I've gone through it, like, you know, that oh dear, it just made me feel so much like well before Pirates of the Caribbean. This, you know, like with the CGI gloss, because it felt real, it felt palpable, it felt like I could grab it and hold it and meld it, and so yeah, I'm definitely in the water. I saw it as like a Waterworld universe kind of thing almost. So
I have to say to you, Stu, that in this in Rob's world, these are compliments.
Yes, they are.
But describing somebody's book as the biggest movie expensive failure in history is not necessarily.
No, I did.
I needed to fill that in for him. I'm sorry.
You were talking about before about seeing vision. Oh dear, this is Shari LaPena all over again, isn't it?
Like when you read her 1-star reviews. Yeah, it is exactly like that. Yeah, I thought your book was a bit like Waterworld. What's the shittest movie ever made? Brilliant.
I actually believe Waterworld's brilliant, by the way. So
it's terrible.
No, can we just get that sorted out? I believe
no,
Waterworld's brilliant.
I'm editing this one, and we're not editing that out.
So I had.
No, Rob's going to get away with this because I saw Waterworld on the cinema 5 times.
What's wrong with you two? Is it something to do with how close you are to each other?
Yeah, is this a Northwest thing?
I don't know, mate. I was watching that and I came out of the cinema and I was like, Kevin Costner rules. Like, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what movie there was doing.
Well, this is the thing. Arendt was Costner for me.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but mid-90s Costner.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so...
It used to be bigger.
Yeah, that's the thing. It went through
in the way that Tom Cruise was
exactly,
Jeffrey.
yeah, exactly that. Like, he was miscast because he was obviously Hollywood royalty, so he would be Arendt in Devil in the Dark Waters, cinematic bow. Simply because
who's your Sammy then?
Oh man, I find this also hard because I got like Ed Harris was in there. So Jacoby Drecht was Ed Harris. But I don't know whether that's accurate. This is the first time ever we've had someone on. I've done my sort of like fantasy 90s casting of their book.
No, It's probably going to be the last, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I might shut this down. I mean, I think you've got lucky that he actually liked Waterworld, but other than
oh no. Well, because for
Chris,
me,
can you bring us on track in any way,
Chris,
shape,
please
or
do
form?
anything you can, mate.
1-star superstar?
Let's do it.
Yes,
Let's
let's
do
do
it.
it. Can you please explain what 1-star per superstar is?
Yes. Before I do, I'm going to say that I pictured Aaron in my head as Wreck-It Ralph.
Yes.
Right, guys.
Everything else was super real, and he was just walking around cartoony and in a good way. Right, 1-star superstar. I find a 1-star review and read it, and you have to try and guess who it is based on the clues in it.
Okay.
But it's not your book.
It's not your book. No, I wouldn't dare. I'm gonna.
Is it one of
That's
our...
Rob's job.
It's not one of ours. No.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Right. I'm gonna have to cut some bits out because it's really obvious. So it says, misrepresented by the marketing, 1 star. Well, the advertising is certainly clear about what kind of book this is. Then there's a chunk, which I can't read, all of which adds up to suggest something extraordinary. Unfortunately, the book itself does not deliver. Essentially, what we have here is a bog-standard thriller with all the usual cliches, except it is set in the future, and there is a machine that allows the user to revisit another's memories. We know this because the book opens with the use of that. It is obviously very important and key to the plot, which is why it's strange when it's unceremoniously punted to one side while the bog-standard thriller trundles on. In fact, if you removed the futurist setting and the machine, the book would be pretty much exactly the same. The only difference is that the key element to solve the case would have been found by old-fashioned police work instead. As it stands, we have a very predictable thriller with unlikable characters. Seriously, the way the main character is treated by and treats everyone is horrendous, and underused sci-fi elements. Misses the mark on all fronts.
Wow.
I don't know if I've read any books with the memory revisiting machine.
The only one I know is
there's only been one recently
Sex by my old.
Oh, I wanted to ask.
Is it Witness X?
Is that what it is, Chris? Chris is
it
so
is,
surprised
Witness
he's
X.
Oh,
my internet's dreadful. Witness X, Sarah Moorhead.
Is that, well, I wanted to ask because she said that was her first 1 star as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's brutal. That's not her book at all.
No.
But that again, it shows the absolute ridiculousness of the 1
Yes.
star review, right? Like, the book is absolutely not for that reader who came in. They say in the subtext of that review, I wanted this specific book.
Yes,
and
exactly.
you did not write that specific book for me, and therefore I will not address any of the bits I like. Yeah, it's just like it's 1 star.
Yeah, that book is a fabulous. Another book that ignores genre. Don't pay attention to genre. Just enjoy what you're reading. Just enjoy the ride that you're on. But I love the dedication that review exhibits in just missing the point massively.
Yeah.
When 7 Deaths first came out, and I was absolutely shitting myself, as you always are, like as I was with Devil as well. Like I thought I would have got past the point where I was nervous about a release. I genuinely would have, but I wasn't. I shit myself for Devil the same way I shit myself for 7 Deaths. And when 7 Deaths very, very first came out, the very first bunch of reviews went to, I have no idea why, they went to a book club of very elderly ladies who did not get on with that book at all.
No, they would not.
And I got about 22  1 star reviews from like a bunch of like elderly women. And to put this in context, loads of elderly women have read this book and very much enjoyed it. But for this group, it was not for them, and they did not like it. And so my first 27 reviews of the book were all 1 star. So I was like, well, I don't feel good about this. I'm not happy anymore. And then it got followed up with, you know how the thing on Twitter is that if someone tags you into the review, then it's probably fairly positive, and if they don't tag you, then it's probably fairly bad. Well, I got tagged into a review, and again, very early doors. And I was like, oh, cool. So I clicked on it, and I went through to see the review, And it was, and they had a blog. They had their blog and they had their reviews. And for 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, the entire blog post was one word, and the word was turgid. That was what they. That's how they refused my book, which was adorable. And thus the benchmark of 1-star reviews was set, and has never ever been surpassed.
On the mug.
Can I just quickly ask, Stu? Obviously, Sarah Moorhead is a big friend of ours, and a podcast as well. Am I right in thinking you were taught by Sarah?
Yeah, mate. In high school, she taught me how to write. And she is. You can directly chart a line from Sarah Moorhead to 7 Deaths, because she was the one who, when I found out, so this story is really bizarre. So me and Sarah have been following each other on Twitter for ages, because she was an author, so I automatically follow authors. But I didn't know much about her, I didn't know much about her book, I wasn't really paying attention, but I knew in school she was Mrs. Moorhead and she was SC Moorhead on Twitter, so I should have put it together, just didn't. And then one day, she put something on Twitter about Top of the Town, which is a nightclub in Widnes. And I was like, hang on a minute, who's talking about Top of the Town on Twitter? So I went and asked her about it. And I just clocked, I was like, are you Mrs. Moorhead? She's like, yeah, I'm fucking Mrs. Moorhead. So I got a train.
She said, yeah, it says so on my Twitter.
yeah. Some fucking detective author you are.
Good one, researchy.
Yeah. And then, so I got a train like a week and a half later to go and see her. Went up to Liverpool, went to see her, and had a lovely chat, just caught up to each other, because she was the one in RA, which isn't a subject that I wasn't paying attention to, I wasn't particularly interested in, I don't want to be there, I thought it was a DOS. Like, it was just where but she was brilliant, and she was talking about, she came in straight away, full of beans, and just about, like, it isn't about, you don't have to worry about God, what you have to worry about is the philosophy of it all, like, what we're talking about is big stuff, what happens to you in the afterlife, is there redemption, if you do something wrong, can you earn your way back from it, sort of like, what do we owe each other, like, as just people, what do we owe each other through our lives, like, this is what she had us talking about in our lessons. She had all this group of 16, 17-year-old kids just chatting about this stuff, really chatting about it and really opening up about it. And it was the first time in school that I was ever engaged. It was the first time I was like, hang on, there's something happening here. Because, like, I could, like, I don't know, like, but school was easy for me. I just breezed through it. Like, it was just, I'll just do that, I'll do that, no problem. But no one had ever said, like, what do you think about this, and made me think beyond the answer in the book. And I did with her. And all that stuff, I never stopped thinking about. It was always fascinating to me. And all those questions that she asked back then are in 7 Deaths. They come back up, they're talked about, they're dealt with. And so there is that direct line from her to that book. So I can't say thank you to her enough.
Oh,
I love that,
so amazing. Yeah. Sorry,
that's
Sean.
exactly what I had with, so my RE teacher for high school was a guy called Ian Hamilton, who was also our head of sixth form, and was hideously vilified by the rest of school because he was a bit camp, and everybody was like, Shirley is bent. They called him Shirley. I don't know why. Anyway, and he was an amazing guy, but he did two things. One, he opened up RE to all of those questions, which was, what are we here for? How do we deal with each other? How do we get back from how we've dealt with each other? What does it all mean? And we dealt with all different religions. And then his other thing, which fascinated me, was to just say that religion through the ages is like the history of politics. And if you look at it like that, and the way that people have been manipulated, and that's definitely shone through to the Alex Ripley series, is like the manipulation of people because of faith, and using faith to you just say that all comes from the things that when you were a teen, somebody made you think outside of the syllabus, and the syllabus was so vast and straightforward. You had boxes and you weren't allowed to think outside it. GCSE math being the prime example, when they said, how if you've got a field this big and a shed and a goat that you've got to tether, where do you tether the goat to give it the maximum grazing potential? And you're like, just don't tether the fucking goat. You've got to feel. This is creative writing,
Yeah, that's it. Why has he got one goat? Like, who's got one goat in a
Why
shed?
have you got a whole field? And why do you make a shed? Why don't you make it into a greenhouse and the goat can eat inside in the winter, you bastard?
Yeah.
Anyway, apparently this was not maths.
But that makes it sound like he cares about the goat. It's tax dodge. If you've got one goat, you're dodging your taxes on something. You're claiming that's a farm, or I don't know what's going on. But
your comprehensive education was better than mine. We did not do taxes. Nobody paid taxes. I can tell you that
much. We've got Sarah's coming on in February, so
great.
Yeah, we'll ask for her side of the story in February.
Yeah.
No, we'll find out what kind of a student you were.
But it's
she won't remember me.
No, but it's one of the nicest.
No, but she'll make it up. She's an author.
Yeah, that's good.
Generally, it's one of the nice. Like when I saw that you two had sort of like reconnected. That's like one of the nicest stories I've seen. In the author world or beyond, in whatever world. It's just a really nice story. My my debut launch, my primary school teacher was there because that's who I accredited to that. That same kind of thing. I wish that my the lads are going to.
I thought we were going to have the horrible English teacher story.
Yeah, no. At least because I had an English teacher who I credit loads to, but he blanked my invitation. So.
He's not only blanked the invitation, Rob knows that he's had copies of the book and just given them to other members of staff. There's never.
I literally credit him for my love of the written word, but he will not. He will not read my. There was one like literally in the school paper. It was my book that I sent him signed. Was reviewed by somebody else, like the head of physics. I saw someone from the admin sent me a message saying I think we best get this back to X who's in English, because it is dedicated to him.
One day there's going to be a story in the papers that Rob will have been quiet for a few days. He'll have not been able to make a couple of podcasts, and then there'll be a story in the paper in Warrington about a disgruntled former student who's murdered their English teacher. Fucking loving them enough.
I really want to be his friend. I'd love to be his friend, but I'm not.
You're killing me, Rob.
I'm not good to be his friend.
You're not.
Surely.
How good was he? Has he written a book? Has he fucked?
No. Surely, if you're an English teacher, at sixth form level, and one of your students goes off to write novels, and they get published, and he credits you for that, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
You'd think so, but I still think that
Obviously
the fact that I think the fact that you slept with his wife probably jaded him slightly.
I love hearing the little throb in Rob's throat as he talks about this, the real sort of sense of really.
I'm so desperate for affirmation.
Yeah.
It really is this is therapy.
No,
do you think he's not reviewed your book because you stand outside his lawn at midnight staring up at his window,
with your hand?
Yeah.
No, I don't know because I don't know.
Stroking the puppet that you've made of his face. Just loving it.
Does your mum's garden face his? And do you have a little gnome version of him that you sit next to in the garden and look at?
Why won't you let me love you? Why won't you let me love you?
I wish that wasn't true, but it is absolutely 100% true. Because we did Goblins the Spire together, and he just made it so incredible. I just it shredded me, that book. Whenever there's a new edition out, I have to get it because it's just what he imparted.
Because maybe one day he'll love you.
One day I'll be like, have you seen my collection of the Spire? I've got so many editions.
And he's like, yeah, I fucking hated that. They put it on the television and I had to teach you twats it.
This is the worst breakup I've ever heard in my entire life.
Robin is English teacher.
Just gotta move on, Rob.
You've got to move on, darling. Your RE teacher sounds like a much nicer person.
I know.
Oh my lord!
Things would have been different if Sarah Moorhead was my teacher.
Maybe not. Maybe it's you. Like, we
No,
don't know.
maybe it's me. Maybe I'm too keen. Maybe I
I
should.
really love you.
Maybe maybe I should have sent him all those signed editions.
With little love hearts.
I by the fifth effort, I toned down the love hearts. That's the important.
The fifth unrequited novel that you wrote in his name.
Oh my God.
Is this the point where we ask what we're all reading? Is that?
I
is
mean,
that what
Jesus,
we do
we've been
now?
on for an hour and a
I know.
half.
So sorry about
The family think we're dead.
that.
Chris, what are you reading, Chris?
I am reading Brothers in Blood by Amar Anwar.
Oh,
Yo.
that's a good
Fantastic.
book.
He's coming on in a few weeks, and
Yeah.
I'm going to go straight on to the next one after. It is amazing.
Oh,
Really,
yes.
really great. Stone Cold Trouble, right? Is the next one.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
fucking brilliant. Like the best example of taking your world and your characters and just deepening them and finding like more in them and more nuance in them and giving you what you want, but knowing like how to surprise you with it. Really, really good book.
Oh,
Really
nice.
Ah, great. Yeah, really looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
what about you, Sean?
I haven't had time. I've got 46 books being published next year. Still no time for that shit. For reading. No, I haven't. I finished the next Matthew Ross that we're publishing. So that's the last draft version, and it is absolutely fucking hilarious. So that's the Red Admiral's Secret.
Is that a title reveal?
I don't know if it's that revealing. I don't think it's a secret. That's just what it's called.
Why did you look off camera then? Was it as your lawyer there? Did they just stand next to you at all times?
It's my English teacher.
My lawyer is Henry the Hoover.
Really?
I don't know who doesn't use Henry the Hoover as their lawyer, but that's who he is. He's smiling coquettishly from behind a chair. So it appears I can mention
flirt, honestly.
The Red Admiral's Secret. Yeah, that's out in February. So.
This is very Fear and Loathing now, isn't it? I refer you to my counsel.
I refer you to my animated vacuum cleaner.
What are you reading, Stu?
I just finished up The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab, which isn't... I've never read her before, and it's not a genre I typically go for, but do you know the premise of the book?
No.
I've read earlier, way earlier, like her first 3.
Oh, yeah.
And again, not what I would have read, but she was so engaging on Twitter that you're like, yep, I'm in.
Yeah, I got recommended to me by a friend who I trust, and again, it wouldn't have been their genre typically, but it's about a young French woman called Addie LaRue who in 17-something makes a deal with the devil for an immortal life, but a life of incident, but the devil tricks her and she's forgotten after every encounter. So like a second after someone turns their back on her, they completely forget about her. So she can't make her mark on the world at all. So and then it flips between sort of 1700 and sort of like 2014, and you can kind of catch up with what she's been doing all the way through it and how she's sort of begun to use this, not even power, this curse to sort of make her way through the world. But then one day she walks into a bookstore and somebody remembers her for the first time in 300 years. And that's the premise of it. And so the premise was just like, I've got to read that. That's got me written all over it. And so I'm really, really enjoying. I really, really enjoyed. It's a strange book because it's beautifully written, but I really enjoyed 2/3 of it, and there was a third of it I didn't quite get on with. But again, the third I didn't get on with is implicit in the story type, so I can't blame the book for that. I blame me as a reader for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'd recommend it because I've never seen anyone. Again, it's toweringly ambitious to take on that concept and actually write it and make a story that works out of it, and she truly has, with some monumentally beautiful writing in there as well.
Yeah, she really does have. She has an incredible style as well that you're like, oh yeah.
What's it called?
The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Is it out now?
Yeah.
Might have a look. Sounds really good. What about you, Rob?
I've just finished Porter and Styles 4, which is called End of the Line, which is Rob Scragg's latest, which is out in January, I believe, end of January, I believe. This is the most high stakes Portland and Styles yet, and he's at the absolute top of his game here, more so than ever before, I feel, actually. And there's humour. The personal and professional worlds collide in a way that had me constantly engaged. So yeah, this is a great addition to an already brilliant series for me. So yeah, highly recommend it.
Good guy too.
Yeah, good fella.
Yeah,
Good fella.
Awesome.
Listen, we've jabbered for an hour and a half. This is unprecedented.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the longest one yet.
And Blood Brothers
So-
Town.
Sorry about that. Just cut out everything past the first 10 minutes and then come back in the final 10 minutes. It's my advice.
Did we just keep back in all the bits where I guess brilliant, diamond, amazing, diamond?
I think the first 10 minutes was mostly masturbation,
oi,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Rob's dog humping everything.
yeah,
My English
exactly.
teacher ignoring everything as well. Let's just
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
all that
let's
business. Let's
Too tragic for air.
Yeah.
no.
That's all just cut it together with English teacher, masturbate. English teacher, masturbate. Diamond.
Yeah,
Good news.
that will cement the relationship with the English teacher perfectly, stupid.
Mate,
I think that's what the English teacher was worried he was doing.
Yeah. Worried or what he saw him
Aware.
doing. Yeah. Outside his tree at midnight.
May I say something partially serious? Partially serious, not very serious. I think just to the listeners, this fabulous book, this Devil in the Dark Water.
Yeah.
I think for me, Stu, you are one of those people that you're a storyteller that whatever it is you do from here, I'll be sat up listening to whatever it is you do.
Well, thanks, mate.
And there's not, that's a short list. That regardless of whatever you choose to do next, I'd be really excited to see what's going on. So I'm very excited. You were very cryptic about what's coming up. I think there's only so much you can say, but whatever it is, we're very excited.
And you'll come back on in 2 years.
I'd love to, mate. Yeah, this has been a blast. I really, really enjoyed this. Thanks, lads. It's been great.
Well, welcome to our ridiculous pub.
Can we have an obscene amount of beer with you at some point next year? Would that be all right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah. I only talk about masturbation even more after a obscene amount of beer. So.
And I only cry about my English teacher even more. So this all works.
This is spectacular. Also, Chris can only have 2 beers before he spends all of the night running to the loo. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm going to have to trade myself for next year, aren't I?
Yeah. This has got to be worth seeing. This will have to happen. We'll take bets on Chris's wheeze. Yeah, that's going to be great.
It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and to talk to you, and more so to read your books. I love them.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate that.
And
That's
thank
lovely.
you for coming on and talking to us and laughing with us and
It's
showing
been-
the world how amazing.
No, seriously, mate. It's been an absolute blast. I've enjoyed this so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks all, and speak soon.
Goodbye.
Speak soon.
Thanks,
Bye,
Stu.
guys.
Take care, man. Thank you.
Cheers.